Zeroy leaves the Trough dimension after eradicating the Kradons. He travels to the Treq dimension, that he now was the god of. Here, he dedicates to pursue his newfound godly rank over the dimension by conquering many worlds and making his name well known across the universe. Zeroy successfully conquers 100 worlds, enslaving the people of the worlds to generate energy for Zeroy's body, providing a virtually endless supply of power for Zeroy. Zeroy continues his search for worlds to conquer when he encounters a massive alien mothership. The ship was the size of a planet, or perhaps it was a planet. Regardless, the mothership had strange properties to it. Zeroy had detected its energy signature light years away, meaning wherever this ship's energy was coming from, it was an energy unlike he has ever seen before. Along with this, the ship seemed to have no gravitational effect on any of its surroundings, unlike what an actual planet would act like. There were two figures that ran the ship. Their names were Blagunsky and Zabumsky. Blagunsky and Zabumsky had sent off their civilizations within simulation ships to find a better world long ago. But ever since then, they have tried to save the planet of Azarkina from pollution by transforming the entire planet into one gargantuan mothership. This massive project proved successful, and Blagunsky and Zabumsky were able to rig the planet's gravitational pull to only be in effect with anything within 25 miles of it. With the mothership fully powered on Phasium energy, Blagunsky and Zabumsky traveled the universe. They contacted Zeroy, informing him that they were extremely intrigued by his immense power. They offered to make Zeroy even stronger than he was, but in exchange, they needed his vowed protection over the mothership. Zeroy accepts the offer and enters the ship. He is meted by Blagunsky and Zabumsky, who introduce him to the powers of Phasium. Phasium was a red crystal native to the Treq dimension. This energy source was so rich in power that even just a small amount of it could power entire planets if used efficiently. Zeroy gathers a crystal chunk of Phasium, having it inserted within the chest of his body. The power instantly grew throughout his body. The energy was more than Zeroy had ever felt before. The suit Zeroy wore began to break down from the sheer amount of power. To fix this, Zeroy had his body built to harness the energy of Phasium more effectively, allowing him to distribute it however he pleases throughout his body. He then travels with the mothership to all 100 planets he conquered. Here, he uses his new power of Phasium to demolish each and every world. This would allow Zeroy to throw himself into battle to find what was weak about his current body and replace it. After all 100 worlds were destroyed, Zeroy had officially become the absolute strongest and most fortified version of himself that he has ever been. Zeroy appeared mostly purple still, but had red bolts of energy bursting out where the Phasium crystal was originally implemented. His cape was now accented with a dark red from the power of Phasium. His left hand was entirely replaced with a claw, capable of firing beams of concentrated Phasium energy. Several wounds from battle still showed, but only meant that Zeroy was stronger than he ever could imagine. Blagunsky and Zabumsky noticed their radar detecting an anomaly on a nearby planet. It showed signs of residual interdimensional energy, something that was familiar to Zeroy. The mothership and Zeroy descend to the anomaly on the planet. There was a massive crater right where the remains of the island rested. In the center of the crater was a weak spot in the dimension's fabric suspended above the ground. Blagunsky and Zabumsky found an ancient crashed spaceship sunken below the water nearby. They realized that the ship was one of their simulation ships that they sent their old civilization on so long ago. If this civilization was still alive, they could only be on the other side of that interdimensional weak spot between Treq and Trough. Zeroy looked on the ground near the interdimensional weak spot. He saw something red glimmering on the dirt below. He reached down and pinched it between his fingers. It could only be one thing: Phasium crystal dust. The object that traveled dimensions here left Phasium dust behind as it traveled. If the old civilization here had access to Phasium on this planet, what could be found on the other dimension version of this planet? If there is an alternate dimension version of everything, there must be an alternate counterpart of Phasium. This counterpart to Phasium could be combined with Phasium to create a power source stronger than any dimension could even create. Zeroy had a new goal. The Trough version of this planet had been hiding something he should have had for centuries now. Zeroy started to rip open a portal to the Trough dimension. The mothership stayed still as it orbited Zephyr. Zeroy started to charge faster and faster towards the moon, Cyanus. Zeroy crashed through the massive energy field, striking the ground of the moon. He got up slowly, looking at the moon bases around him. Zeroy seemed concerned with the presence of life on the moon. Could it be that those he made perish so long ago survived? He shook off the thought, quickly turning and walking towards the massive deposit of cyanium. His intentions became clear now. He had come for this dimension's cyanium, and lots of it too. Zeroy reached the cyanium ore and instantly started ravaging and harvesting chunks of it. Zeroy seemed entranced by the cyanium, like he had been craving its power for centuries. The ground shook. Zeroy looked around, holding chunks of cyanium in each hand still. Abruptly, a being bursted through the ground below Zeroy, smashing his face with his fist as he flew up out of the ground. Zeroy was knocked off his feet for a moment, but he swiftly recovered. The being stood in front of Zeroy, standing at the same height and size as him. The being was known as Cyan-C, god of the trough dimension and guardian of cyanium. Cyan-C was livid at Zeroy. Why would he travel to this dimension just to take cyanium for himself? Cyan-C had been protecting and keeping the power of cyanium from falling into the wrong hands, but never once has he ever had to deal with another god infiltrating his dimension to take cyanium. Whatever Zeroy's purpose for taking cyanium was, it could not be good. Cyan-C charges at Zeroy as he stands his ground. The two gods clash against one another for a few moments before Cyan-C swoops down to grab Zeroy's leg, launching him straight off the moon and towards the planet. Zeroy crashes right on the island of Zephyr. The immense Phasium energy within him, paired with a brutal impact on the island, caused the surrounding environment to be scarred with the energy dispersed from the impact. He crawled up to see that the very land he had awoken on was where he was returned to. But there were cities across every bit of the island. He had failed in fulfilling Leroy's dying wish to extinct the Zephians. Zeroy was infuriated, but then soon enough, Cyan-C followed. He crashed on the other side of the island, causing that area to be scarred from the energy of cyanium. 3 larger chunks of the moon were brought down with him after the battle on the moon. The two gods had begun their battle against each other.